Hey fellow patriots, I'm Bree.
And I'm Blaze. Some call me Pa. It has been said that we have 4 boxes to keep ourselves free. These are the soap box, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box.
And we are the 4th box. We are here to arm you with enough information, resources, and skills to take back your freedom, increase your self-sufficiency, and inspire you to join in the fight against tyranny.
Thomas Jefferson said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." Thank you for joining us and for joining in this fight.
Welcome back to the 4th box. Okay, welcome back, Patriots, to the 4th Box podcast. We had very high hopes of recording last week from Sturgis, South Dakota, while we were out there at the motorcycle rally, but you know how that can be. It just didn't happen. So we're going to try and keep it light this week and actually kind of reminisce on our trip and talk about Sturgis and make it a little bit less political than we usually do. So welcome back, everybody. Pops, it's hard to believe the trip has already come and gone.
Yeah, it sure is. I was just thinking earlier today, a week ago already, we were blessed enough to be riding around the Black Hills with thousands and thousands of our fellow American and foreign bikers and, patriots, etc. So as we kick off tonight, certainly are sending our best greetings to our friends, bikers, patriots, listeners around the country. As you mentioned, we were really hopeful, but as things do often when there's a big event like that, schedules get bumped around and things just didn't happen. But we did get to visit our friends at the VFW that we were hoping to have host us. It just wasn't to be. So as we prepare to get into the session tonight, I'd like to raise my glass. I have a little Tullamore Dew. I'm going to raise my glass to Mark and to Matt and to Wade, who joined us on our trip to Sturgis. Pretty largely, I would say, not all that experienced riders. And they had a great ride. They did well out there on the road. We dealt with heat, a little bit of rain. And all of our other fellow bikers that we met along the trail and who enjoyed Bike Week with us. I'm raising my glass of Tullamore Dew tonight as a toast and a farewell until we see each other again out on that highway. It's one of our favorite spots. So cheers to you.
Love it. Cheers.
And we're back here in our favorite location.
The Buckman Tavern.
The Buckman Tavern. 4th box coming to you from our virtual Buckman Tavern. And for those that don't remember, the Buckman Tavern was where those patriots met on the Lexington Green on that fateful morn, April 19, 1775, where the shot heard round the world, more importantly, recognized as the beginning of the American Revolution. So we like to say that we're coming to you from the Buckman Tavern, that historical location up on the Lexington Green in Massachusetts. So as we get started again, I have a quote for tonight, and it's, "No man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he is vigilant in its preservation." And that came from not one of the founders, but a very important American figure, and that would be Douglas MacArthur, great World War II general. That was his saying. So, way back in the beginning, we were promoting the idea of staying vigilant, and all the way up through more contemporary authors and great figures, the suggestion is made that nobody deserves the blessing of freedom unless he or she is vigilant in its preservation, from Douglas MacArthur. Thought that was a great one. Looking forward to discussing the road tonight, all of our exciting travels and friends we met along the way, and all of those great things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a perfect quote because, to be honest, the reason that I wanted to have kind of a laid-back session tonight is because in our travels to and from and during, I had that sense of freedom that so often feels lost to me. And I think that's so much of what the beauty is of being on the road, right? And particularly being on a motorcycle. This isn't, a suggestion for all of our listeners that the only way to stay free is to go out and get a motorcycle. But it's not a bad tip. It's not a bad life hack, because it was so easy for me to remove myself from all of the craziness going on in the world during that time. And it's so rare that I find that. It's so rare that I'm not, constantly looking at my phone or my laptop for the biggest news story, for all the shady dealings of the underworld, of the elite, and whatever else. Like, it's so rare that I feel like at peace, and like I don't need to completely invest all of my time into this madness. And so tonight I was like, you know what? This was a great reminder for me that part of our job in this fight is to also still remain positive and recognize that there is still freedom to be found, and that we don't have to drown ourselves in the negative all the time. And we come back week after week here and we talk about so much negative. There's so much bad in the world. But I kind of wanted to keep it light this week and talk about Sturgis, talk about a place we love so much, and just kind of reminisce on those feelings that we had out there, and remind people that there is still a light, not just at the end of the tunnel, but in the present. And so, part of our job is recognizing that and realizing that there is something left to fight for.
I think that's a great point for us. This past week and our time spent on the road and while out at Sturgis, and of course the road back, as you so suggested, provides a great feeling of liberty. You are surrounded by probably one of the most significant patriotic groups in the country, I would suggest, and that being the American Motorcycling Group. Uh, and I wanted to give a little bit of background before we elaborate a little bit more on that. I wanted to give a little bit of background on the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So, almost everybody that spent any time on a motorcycle, at least a highway bike, has probably heard of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally or the Black Hills Motorcycle Classic. There's several different names, most commonly referred to as simply Sturgis. And the name of town Sturgis came from a commanding officer under General Custer that was also met with his fate out at the Little Bighorn when he was with that fateful expedition that was going back to push the Indians back further as the American pioneers were settling the Southwest and all that. So that's where the name came from. The town Sturgis has hosted 85 years, and I'm happy to say that I have participated in half the lifetime of the Sturgis Rally. 85 years. I've been going off and on for 42 of the 85 years, so almost exactly half. But this whole thing started back in 1938. So you say, well, why is this year 85? Because they missed several years during the heat of World War II. And that was largely because many of the fellas that would have participated in the event, which was largely made up of motorcycling stunts, races, gypsy tours through the Black Hills, which we continue to enjoy those sort of things today. But that was the beginning in 1938. Several years were skipped during World War II. It resumed shortly after World War II, and this whole event was founded by the Jack Pine Gypsies, which is a motorcycle club based out of Sturgis, South Dakota, still exists today. They host many of the events, and they own many of the properties that significant events take place. So, to name a few, they have drag racing, flat track racing, hill climb racing, they have shows, they have new models are available, new motorcycle builders are available you can go out and test ride these things. almost anything that is remotely associated with motorcycling can be found at Sturgis. So I'd like you to chime in. There's some more history we can go over, but I'm sure you have some perspective. You have been going since 2002. I think it's probably your sixth or seventh trip out there. So you are an experienced Sturgis participant, have spent a lot of time on the back of a motorcycle. I know you have intentions and hopes of riding someday, and I certainly hope to be along on out to Sturgis this year, not just on the back or in a cage to get out there. So, what's your perspective?
Well, I like bringing up, the history of it because 85 years is a long time in the making. And the thing that's interesting to think back on, we think back 85 years in history, 1938, and it's really easy, when we think about this from the perspective of the fourth box and the things that we're normally talking about. It's like this was a wildly different time, but the type of people that were attending were still the same. They were still the outlaws, they were still the rebels, and that is absolutely true that remains to be the case today. And I know you'd actually shared an article with us about, is Sturgis still the same that it was? And I was kind of thinking about this because this article called attention to the fact that back in the day, old school days, long before you even were attending, though I'm sure some of that carried over into those days too. The participants, the attendees they were like the real deal. A lot of motorcycle clubs or gangs, people who spent their whole life on the road, like true full-time motorcyclists, and that's who attended. And when you think about it like that, that's still true today. The only difference is there's a lot more attendees. Back then, it was just, say 25, 50,000 people maybe. And so they were all that. But now it's drawn in such a crowd of other people. And 500,000, 600,000 people. Of course, you still have that percentage of people who are truly like the hardcore full-time motorcyclists, but there's a ton of other people there too. And I think that's really important here because the type of people that gather overall are the same. Maybe it's not full-time motorcyclists, but it's not really just for that. It's for people who have a similar mindset. And in fact, one of the people traveling with us had mentioned to me at one point during the trip, sometimes motorcyclists get a bad rap. Like people see someone on a motorcycle and they automatically think kind of negative thoughts about this person. There's just something built in there. And I'm sure that comes back to the fact that, there are so many violent motorcycle clubs out there. Again, this is the minority, right? But he made the point that, like, really the thing that ties all of us is that we just love the feeling and the idea of freedom. And that's what this whole rally really represents to me as someone who's been there a few times, obviously less than you. But when you go out there, you recognize that even though there are so many different people from all around the country and around the world with so many different walks, coming from so many different types of backgrounds and just so many different people, ideologies. The thing that we talk about here all the time, it's not about our differences. It's about what, the common threads that hold us together. And I feel like Sturgis is a place that you can really see that shine through because these are people who are still hungry for freedom. And it gives me a little bit of hope because you go to a place like that and you realize, man, there's an awful lot of us here. There's an awful lot of us who want that. And in some ways, it kind of feels like you dropped back in time when you're out there. There's none of this weird woke bullshit. There's no, LGBTQ plus flags flying around. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like the quintessential Americana. America in like 1985 when it's kind of just like a hazy dream that like someone from my generation doesn't even get to experience. But you kind of go to Sturgis and it kind of feels like you step back for a minute. It feels like the outside world isn't quite so damning. Like maybe we still have a shot. And for me, I think that's a really exciting thing to experience because even though there's nothing going on out there that's like based in politics and based on all this nonsense, which is awesome to step away from in such a big group, you still have that sense of like pride for your country out there for more reasons than one. But that's just kind of my like overarching idea of the
Yeah,
experience.
that's awesome. A lot of stuff to pick apart there. Really good points. I want to go back almost to your beginning and suggest, as you did, that I think more than anything, that group that participates, or almost across the board of that group that participates, is out there because there is a sense of freedom. There's a sense of freedom riding a motorcycle across the plains or through the Black Hills. There's a sense of camaraderie with other like minded people. It is a very, very patriotic group. It is a group that I suggested to you kids when you were young, if the shit ever hits the fan, get with the biking community, because they will stand tall. They will stand in support of family. They will stand in support of the foundational principles that this country was founded on. And also your point about securing that feeling of freedom. It don't matter if you get it by going fishing, by playing a musical instrument. all of us all of us need to have an escape from the stuff that they are bombarding us with daily. That is intended to beat us down. It is intended to keep us fractured. It is intended to do the opposite of what the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally does, and that is bringing people from all walks of life together in one location with very, very few incidents of trouble. All walks of life, all races, all denominations, all there for the joy of motorcycling. And there is an underlying feeling of patriotism amongst that group. And that largely has to do with the exact same reason many of the original motorcycle clubs were founded. And these were military men who, after having served in one conflict or another, many of them World War II guys, also later on in Korea and Vietnam, they came back. They had a hell of a time assimilating back into society with any normalcy. And they found the camaraderie. They found the undying support in a motorcycle club, just like they had with their fellow squad members over in some trench in Europe or in Southeast Asia or over in Korea. They formed a bond that was unbreakable. And that is what makes these groups unique. It makes them tight. And there are groups that don't participate. There's some, of course, that get involved with things. But you see lots of different colors from lots of different groups out there. You see all denomination, all creed, all religions. And you see very little trouble. Very, very little. We were all over that place a week ago in many of the big establishments, many of the back streets, and nothing. Campgrounds, not a whisper of trouble. This is, as you suggest, the America we're all looking for. This whole country could take an example from the folks that gathered out in the Black Hills of South Dakota last week, and there's still many of them out there this week, but there is such a feeling of unified freedom that runs through that event that I think it will always be a draw as long as I can throw a leg up over a motorcycle to get there.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are great points. And I love that you brought up the fact that, for some people, maybe it's not motorcycling, right? Maybe it is fishing, or maybe it's art, or whatever it might be for you. And that's totally fine. The point is clearly not about like going to the motorcycle rally to prove that you're a patriot, right? The point is that we have to find ways to immerse ourselves in these things that we love, because it's easy to forget what we're fighting for. And circling all the way back to your quote in the beginning there, we have to stay vigilant. It's our duty. We've brought this up so many times. It's not just our right to be paying attention to what's going on in high places and to rectify it when it goes south. It's our duty to do so. It is our duty to stay vigilant. And if we lose sight of what we're even fighting for, you lose motivation pretty quickly. If you can't remember what freedom really feels like, it's really easy to just be like, I am out of this fight. There's nothing left here for me to keep fighting for. Why would I continue? Why would I press on? And yeah, whatever that is for you, go and spend time doing it and get away from the news and get away from this podcast or any other podcast that you listen to for a little while. Because for me, it was so refreshing to not be thinking about it. Every once in a while, sure, there would be a headline that was big enough that I'd get a notification on, the front screen of my phone. But I didn't even look into it because I was like so happy to be in a place where that freedom still resonated for so many people. That's such a rare feeling to find. And for me, it is so critical in maintaining the motivation to keep doing what we're doing here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Also, not only does it help you if fishing or art or music or gardening, whatever your escape is, that helps you reconnect with something that we should all treasure. And even though I have bashed, sitting around watching a football game, if that's what it is, and it helps you recharge your batteries, it doesn't matter. We all have to recognize the value of liberty, and we all should recognize that much of it is being stolen away. And so we take these times to escape the headlines, I think was a phrase you used, escape the bombardment that they keep us confused, disoriented, depressed, angry. Escape all that. Find an activity you love and spend time doing it, whether it's with yourself or with others that enjoy a similar activity. It recharges the batteries. It helps you place emphasis on what we see slipping away and recommit yourself to joining in that fight to preserve the liberty that, those brave men and women down through history have provided for us.
Yeah, exactly. You brought up the point a little bit ago about how we went into many of these like huge bars, huge events, huge venues, surrounded with all kinds of different people, strangers. But I don't ever feel worried there. I feel safe. Always. And it's because of that underlying tone of freedom. And it's because of the sense of community. Mm-hmm. And that's the other big piece here. It's a piece that we've called on many, many times throughout this podcast. If you have community, you have nothing. You have no way to preserve yourself. You have to have some sense of community, whether it's with your neighbor across the street or whether it's with like-minded people around the country. That is such a big part of maintaining our personal freedoms. That sounds a little counterintuitive, personal freedom, and then we're talking about a community right as a whole, but like that is a big part of it. And you have to have a way to share your thoughts and share your ideas, and once again remember what it is you're fighting for. And in a place like that, for me, I feel safety, I feel welcomed because I'm surrounded by like-minded people. You mentioned all the other hobbies people might have where they can go to escape these things. Don't just sit and do it in your home. Go to an event. Go spend time with other people to do these things, whether it is football or, playing or listening to music or whatever it is, whatever your thing is that helps you to shut off the noise, do it in a group, make new friends, meet new people, because not only does it give you that sense of community and give you people to call on if and when shit hits the fan, but it also expands your worldview a little bit because you're able to start understanding different people's perspectives from a background that maybe you're not super familiar with. And this sounds like such a silly, obvious statement, right? In the fight for freedom. What a silly suggestion to just go to a community networking event for the thing that you love. But it's really so much bigger than that because that's such an important piece of what it is to be an American.
Yeah, again, I think you point out very well that all of us, because of the day-to-day grind, because of what we are being bombarded with, we feel ourselves getting beat down. So when you go and this is an event, I want to just point out, as you mentioned, that you feel very comfortable there, and you've been to a lot of different motorcycle events, many with me, sometimes without, dating back to when you were very small. And society at large, and I suppose with the help of the twisted up media, which again is nothing more than the propaganda arm of the Communist Party, always pointing anything that has to do with patriotism or spirituality or any of the things that goes against the agenda. They, of course, have a lot of negative things to say. So I think a lot of the negative view that maybe society at large has toward a motorcycle. If five guys pull in on a motorcycle, everybody automatically is, I think that largely has been exacerbated by those who don't want us to be unified, those that don't want us to recognize the value of freedom. They are the people that want to say, oh, you need to stay away. Those are bad people. They are not bad people. You've been around them all your life. And that is exactly who I would turn to if I was going to become incapacitated. The friends that I have in the motorcycle community, I know will be here in support. So a lot of great memories over the years. There's so much related to Sturgis. I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the history some more. And, as we mentioned, it started in 1938, resumed. There was a few years that it was stopped during World War II, resumed shortly thereafter. This thing has grown to, as you mentioned, hundreds of thousands of people. Now, the numbers are always disputed, but they have counters that are out on the interstates that are coming towards Sturgis from a couple of different directions, and they're monitoring the flow and they calculate numbers. So I was going down through some of the previous numbers, and I see that 2015, which oddly enough we were there in 2015 as well, with your sister and myself and others. And that is listed as the high water mark for the turnout, which was just shy of 750,000 people. And what that means is, it's become a 10-day event. At the beginning, it was a one-day event. Then it was a weekend. Then it expanded. And now it officially is a 10-day event, beginning the Friday before the first full week in August every year. And it has expanded to this huge event that motorcyclists all over the world come to. We've met people from overseas. They've had bikes shipped over or they've rented bikes. They estimate that this thing generates about $800 million for that area in commerce. And they have, they being the government of South Dakota and the local governments of Sturgis and the other small communities out in the prairie and in the hills, they have made it a priority to make this an event that is more friendly toward anybody who would like to go. And now they have an $800 million a year estimated financial activity. Think about the benefits to all of those businesses out there. The restaurants, the bars, the motorcycle shops, the everything in the area is benefiting from this. And they, very wise, the folks in that area have focused on making it an event that's attractive to many people, not just the hardcore bikers. So I think that's the thing, going back to the article you mentioned, that it has morphed a little bit. And I've seen it in the 42 years that I've gone. When I first went in 1983 was the first year that you no longer could camp out in the city park. Right down where the beautiful statue of Colonel Sturgis is, there's a huge park behind there, and that used to be filled. In fact, the first couple of times I went, they would have to go in there and chase people out because it was just open camping. Pre-1983, you could get into the city park there, and if there was a spot to throw up your tent, you were right there. So that was one of the things that have changed, and now these huge campgrounds have sprung up all around Sturgis and out through the hills, where tens of thousands of people congregate in one campground. Many of them spend their whole week at Sturgis in one of those campgrounds because there's restaurants, there's bars, there's cigar shops, there's tattoo parlors, there's leather shops, there's everything that you could want right in these big, huge campgrounds out there. So things have changed. As you might recall, we had some time at the hill climbs years ago, and we made it to that event this year. One of the very cool, exciting things you can go and watch. Cost you a couple of bucks and go in and watch these guys race up the side of a mountain on these crazy built motorcycles for that task, or you can go to the flat track or the drag race. So many cool events, so many great stories related to it, and we have been a big part of it. We have our family has participated in this for a very long time, and we've made it one of our favorite things to do.
For sure. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to talk about it tonight. I mean, one, we were hoping we could just do a regular old podcast session while in Sturgis, but that's not realistic. There's so much to see and do there. So that's why I was like, you know what? Let's just keep it chill tonight and talk about this event and talk about how it is representative of the freedom that we hope for. For me, that's really like the big point of this conversation for those listening tonight. Like, it's about recognizing that the freedom that we say is lost all the time, it still exists in small doses. The thing that is so key here is that when you get that amount of people together, look at how it changed the entire landscape of, the southwestern quarter of a state. Like, that's, again, another takeaway from this for me is that when you get us together, we make significant change. And that is the thing that we're always missing with these conversations that we have week after week, is finding ways to get us all together, to unify us, to get to a place and to say, hey, enough is enough. How are we going to do this? How are we going to all come together and agree that we're done with this shit and we need to stand up in solidarity with one another to say that, to make our voices heard? For me, you look at Sturgis and you're like, well, that's a great example. And it's not for anything political, right? It's for something that you're passionate about. Well, let's take that passion, I've said this one before too, and apply it to other things that we're passionate about. Great. I'm not saying every single person at the motorcycle rally is passionate enough that they're going to do something like this, where we sit here and we talk and we try to share these ideas with other people, but we can take that as an example of ways that we can make change. Once we start getting groups of people together, it doesn't take a lot of pushing for people in power. So we can look at the history of this and watch how it's evolved and watch how people have come together and say, okay, wow, like they had a significant change on the way that this community functions, the way now this county functions, the way South Dakota as a state functions. Like, it has changed so many things over the course of 85 years. And that was just by happenstance. That wasn't even people trying. That's just because people were showing up. Like, it's really that easy for us to make change once we're in a group. And that's what it's all about. That goes right back to the point of finding your community and networking and creating a plan and getting together with people, because we are so powerful when we are in numbers. And it doesn't even have to be that big of
a number. Probably one of the most poignant observations that you've made since we've been doing these podcasts. Remember last week or a week or so ago, we talked about when government fears the people, you have liberty. When the people fear the government, you have tyranny. So these are, and the way you described that made me think about this. When you're out on a street in Main Street, Sturgis, downtown, and there's 4 cops standing on every corner, you don't feel like you do when you're on your local street. If you see a cop go by, you do not feel that way. There is no intimidation factor from the cops toward the people, because you're standing on a street with 100,000 freedom-loving Americans, and the cops are out there greeting people. They're asking you about your motorcycle. Where did you come from? Exactly the way those in government are supposed to be toward we the people. So to your point, this is a very clear example where it's flipped back around, where now we the people are kind of running this show, and we ran it very well. Yeah, you still got to have cops there. They are not out doing what they normally are doing in our hometowns and cities all over this country, where they're tasing and taxing through fines everybody that drives by. They're not doing that. It's a complete different environment. Further to that point, the mayor of Sturgis, now it's not a huge town. I think it's less than 6,500 on non-weeks that the bike event isn't going on. So it's a small community, but the mayor leads a huge motorcycle ride. Where do you see this sort of thing happening normally? No, we got to go kiss somebody's arse to get them to return our phone call, when out there, they're happy to get to the front of a 2,000 bike motorcycle ride tour up through the hills. There's just a different feeling. And I think, to your point, when we stand in unison, this country belongs to us. We run the show here. You folks work for us, and we'll let you know if you're out of line. That feeling is much more prevalent in that setting than any place else. And maybe that's one of the things that is such a draw to me, is that feeling of freedom where they're here to serve us. When almost everywhere else in this country that you go in ones or twos or with your family, you feel the exact opposite of that. You feel intimidated when you see the cops go by. You feel intimidated when you got to go talk to one of your public servants. People like Dark Horse Campbell, who was a senator, I believe, out of Colorado, recognized he was an American Indian who served in the U.S. Senate, who would ride up to Sturgis every year, recognizing the value of connecting with those people and connecting with freedom-loving people. And that is such an overwhelming feeling that you have when you're walking up and down that street. Is I feel free, I feel unencumbered. And that is the way this whole country is supposed to be. So there's some great lessons there, and you really helped shine a light on that. It's a terrific place to go and feel freedom that we're supposed to have all the time, not just when you're in a part of 500,000 other bikers. We are supposed to have that feeling and that true freedom, liberty all the time.
Absolutely right. Imagine if one of these assholes from DC showed up at an event like that and started spewing the kind of rhetoric that we talk on here all the time about disliking and disagreeing with. How quickly would they be running out of Dodge to get out of that place? Because they can show up to, a little group where 30 people, 30 of their constituents come to listen. And a couple people might be comfortable enough to raise their voice in a small group, oh, I'm not really sure I agree with what you're doing and so, but they might not even be comfortable enough to do that because half of these people show up with an entourage of 100 of their cronies.
Of course.
So then you're like, well, I'm kind of outnumbered. Okay, well, show up to a place like that, show up to an event where there's hundreds of thousands of people, we're back in charge. Yep. 100%. And that's why I'm so just enamored with what Sturgis is from the perspective of the Fourth Box podcast, because these moments are so important in creating that motivation and that drive to continue doing this, to stay in the fight, because it's very easy to lose sight of what can still be in this country. But when you go to a place like that and you feel that freedom, it is so attractive. It is so magnetic. You want it so badly. You want to see it when you go home. You want to go home and take that feeling with you. And when you come home and it's gone, you get mad. Mm-hmm. And that's why we sit here and we do this, because we want other people to get mad. Mm-hmm. But we've talked about how many times we've said it. People don't know the freedom they're missing. And that's why I wanted to talk about Sturgis, because I think it could wake people up to the idea that there is freedom and you forgot what it felt like.
Yep. And I think in addition to being at the event where you are in large groups of people, lots of times you could be 100 miles away, as we were when we rode down in the South Black Hills toward the Custer Wildlife Loop and a lot of the beautiful sites down that way. You're almost 100 miles away. And every town you go through almost looks like downtown Sturgis. Bikes are parked up and down Main Street, etc. But you still have this feeling. It's the feeling you have on the open road. You're going down the road, the noise is turned off, you're enjoying Mother Nature, you're enjoying the beauty of the day, and all of this stuff just exits your head that most of the time is generally clutter that's in there, rattling around, making you mad, making you depressed, making you worried about your children's future, all of those things. It kind of evaporates when you're out there with the wind in your face and the beauty of nature around you and fellow comrades on the road. You can't raise your hand enough times, so everybody just quits waving. After you get 1,000 miles away, all the bikers start waving again, and you can tell, well, we're away from Sturgis now because you cannot wave. And another point I wanted to make, look at downtown Sturgis. Thousands and thousands and thousands of motorcycles going up and down those streets with intersecting lanes of travel. And everybody pulls up and they take their turn. This is civilized without government intervention. The red lights are turned off. Everybody pulls up to the intersection. This one goes, that one goes, this one goes, you go. Everybody takes a turn. And it just goes to show you how well we can operate without government intervention. We do not need this huge behemoth of a government that so many people have become convinced that we have to have government telling us what to do, holding our hand, showing us where to go, telling us what to eat, telling us what shots to take. No. Look at the freedom that's displayed out there and how well behaved these people are. And they come from every corner of this country and points beyond. And everybody is acting in community, in unison, without problems. We don't need somebody out there telling us, you go. Everybody figures it out. It is such a clarifying moment, such a beautiful reminder of what we can have when we decide to take it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not even on purpose out there. It's just the way that it is. It feels like what life is supposed to be. And if we can find a way to bring that feeling to our local communities, we would create change so fast, because it is so appealing when people recognize that thing that has been missing, this thing that is inherent to you as a human being by God, not by man. This is your right to have these things, to have this freedom. Does it mean that you go to Sturgis and there's no laws and it's complete anarchy? No, those things still exist. However, you reconnect with all the things that it means to be free and all the things that it means to be a person who loves this country. Just the ride out there, it kind of puts you back in touch with your roots a little bit, right? We're a nomadic people. We're not a people that are supposed to be kept in these, soon to come 15-minute cities where you can't go outside of X amount of radius. Let's not even get into that, because that's not a conspiracy theory anymore. We're not a people like up in Nova Scotia where you'll get fined $25,000 if you go out and enjoy your public lands. We're not those people. We are nomads by nature. Mm-hmm. We are the people who, homesteaded this entire country. And it's really easy to forget how big it is until you make a trip like that. And you're like, wow, there's a lot of ground here. And our ancestors covered this because they craved the same thing that we still do, but we forget. We put it to the back of our minds. To your point, because our brains are filled with all of this clutter that is propaganda. It doesn't matter if you feel angry, sad, scared, depressed. It doesn't. Any of the things that you feel that are negative have been cultivated by the people in power, and they put those in your mind. And as soon as you're able to step outside of it and just be and enjoy this country for what it is, the beauty that is there, the vastness, it becomes so easy to appreciate everything again and want the good back and want to remove that negativity out of your mind and out of everybody else's mind. And that's why we do this, because we want everyone else to have this experience that we get to have for a week, to have this moment of clarity where you remember what freedom is, where you remember what America's all about. I want everybody I know to feel that all the time.
Yes, that is what we are supposed to have. So find your freedom. Find whatever it is that sets you free, that breaks you away from all of the noise that they're trying to cram into, all of the confusion, all of the anger, all of the pointing fingers, Democrat, Republican, black, white, gay, straight, all of this that they're trying to keep us feeding on. Find something, find your Sturgis, find your freedom, find a way to cut yourself away from all of that, and you will be reinvigorated. to join in the fight and to recognize that there is something worth saving. There is something worth handing off to our children and hopefully our grandchildren, all of those things, because this is what was purchased. Remember, government's only job, as described in the Declaration of Independence, which is when we decided that we've had enough of being lorded over, their only job is to preserve for every single one of us our ability to live our life as we choose, to protect life, all life, without any question, to protect liberty, the liberty to do whatever the hell you want to do, up until the point that it hurts somebody else's ability to do what they want to do. That is anything you want to do. And the pursuit of your happiness. That is their only job. Not all of this crap that they have built into what government has become. That is not their job. Their job is to protect our freedom. The exact thing that they're working very hard to take away. So if you find a way to reconnect with your freedom, find your Sturgis, find your freedom, you will recommit. I want my kids to enjoy total freedom, total liberty. Live your life uninhibited by some nitwit in your state capital or toilet, Washington, D.C. Should not be interfering. Their only job, as described by the founding documents, is to protect those things, period. That's what we need to get back to. And we had the very significant blessing of being able to connect with that little bit of freedom that we found by traveling almost 4,000 miles. You guys even more than that, more than 4,000 miles to and from and while we were at Sturgis, riding through those hills, riding through those plains. Just such a blessing. So grateful that I was able to share it with you again, and your boyfriend and his friends. And I want to mention, we took a detour on the way home, just talking about our personal journey. On the way home, we took a detour to see our very dear friends up in eastern South Dakota, Jared and Mike, who we hope to have on very soon. We got to visit with them. We had a quick lunch, saw a little bit of the area that they're living and ranching and farming in. Great American patriots who were involved with, at least for now, stymieing the bullshit, wealth-grabbing, carbon sequestering pipeline. And they're continuing the fight as they're trying to, come by another means. And we'll get into that when we have them on. But I did want to mention, great honor, blessing for us to have some time just to zip up to see them guys. It was a very quick visit, and looking forward to having them back on the show. And certainly when we get out to South Dakota again, we would be looking them up, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, another point. We've made so many friends thanks to this journey, and that's part of the beauty of it. So it's been a great episode, reminiscing on the fun that we had out there and reminiscing on, all the feelings that it brings us. So I think we pretty much wrapped it up for the night. Pops, I'll let you close us out with a Bible verse.
Yeah, again, I'm going to send my personal salute to all of the friends, all of the fellow bikers that we came in contact with over our journey. Certainly hope to see you on the road again. Bree, as always, it was good traveling with you. There's something about living on the road, as you described. We're a nomadic people, and we certainly had a little taste of that over the past week. So cheers to all of our biking friends out there, and let's continue to work toward restoring this republic and the many blessings that were bequeathed to us by the blood of our forefathers. So the blessing for tonight, for he guards the course of the just and protects the way of the faithful ones. And that comes from Proverbs 2:8-9. And when we think about riding, 2,000 miles out and back each way and our journey out there, we were blessed to be without incident, to be blessed without real bad weather to ride through. and I found this verse that said that he will guard our course. And I thought that was very fitting for having just recently finished up a great trip.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a great show. It was a great trip. I know there are more to come, and I think you said it best when you said, find your freedom, find your Sturgis. So with that, guys, looking forward to next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. Stay vigilant.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate the support and truly love getting to share this message with anyone who wants or needs it. The best way for you to support the show is to subscribe, add a rating, and share with everyone you know. You can find us on Instagram, X, and at thefourthbox.com. We'll see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Stay vigilant.